Hey guys, let's take a look here. Yeah, I think we're rolling. All right, guys, it's Eddie here with the Tree Peekers podcast. I'm gonna double check, make sure I'm rolling. Yep. Okay, so I need to get a new episode up. So here's what I'm doing. Of course, my baby's coming out of the house right now. He's looking for me. So about a month ago, I was invited out to a good buddy of mine's house. Past the state line in New Mexico into Colorado, as you're getting close to a certain mountain range up there, southwest Colorado, okay? And he invited us out for a family outing, my wife, my kids. We all went. We had a great time. I'm not gonna put his name out there, and I'm not gonna say exactly where we were, but he had a couple stories for me that he shared. And I said this to him when we were there because he talked to me about what had happened, gave him chills, and I mean, this is my buddy right here, my buddy of 20 years. I mean, I love this guy, okay? And this guy hunts elk, bear, buffalo. I mean, he's a man's man. I said this to him, he started cracking up. I go, because I was telling my wife as he was describing these stories of what happened to him out there on his 35-acre property, and I'm like, this is a man's man talking here. You know what I mean? A hunter, somebody who's been out in the wilderness. I mean, and I'll go into detail here a little bit of what he said happened. So you got to imagine, you turn off of the highway and you get to the dirt road. It's 7 miles down a dirt road, okay? 7 miles, no phone service. Out by, you are not far from this mountain range. And there's a few things that even happened while we were out there. I'm going to tell you the 2 stories he told me, and then I'm going to tell you about the lights in the sky that night that we saw 2 nights in a row. Flat out incredible, right? Over this mountain range, Not only that, but we had a little something strange both nights when we went out after midnight. There's this big ditch, and that's going to come into play with the story here. The big ditch is, but when we were down there, I mean, this ditch is at least 12, 15 feet down, right? I mean, and it thorns and thicket and everything. I mean, some weird noises coming out of there. We thought rocks were being thrown at us. I wanted to take the camera out, but, I was there as a friend. I was there visiting with my family. And yes, we were sharing in this experience. He knew about the podcast. He knows what I'm into. So he took me out. So I couldn't just break the camera out because I felt like that was it was being disrespectful to why we were being invited out there. But I'm going to share this story now. Like I said, everybody's going to remain anonymous. We're not going to put exact geolocations of where we were. But let's just start by saying my partner, my good buddy, let's call him Jimmy Gaylord, okay? Let's just give him a name. Old Jim, we're gonna call him, okay? And that's not his name, but if he watches this, he's laughing right now, and I guarantee you he is. So, anywho, old Jimerson was he was getting home from work one night, right? And he walked me through this whole thing. He had the flashlight on his head, the 45 on his hip, just in case, any bear came out or anything while we were doing that, or quote unquote, what this podcast is about. Just this whole thing was awesome and crazy. But so we're out there. He wants to show me bit by bit what happened, how it went down. But like I said, he's got the gun on his hip. We got the flashlights. I've got my big old flashlight. He's got his on his head, and he's walking me through what happened. So old Jimerson, Jimmy Gaylord, like I said one more time for him there, he'll get a kick out of that. Old Jimerson says he gets home from work one night. So you got to imagine, he's coming in. He says it's about 11 o'clock at night, maybe a little after. So 7 miles down a dirt road off the highway, okay? Off the paved highway. Now you're going 7 miles out there. You got to go slow. You got to take it easy. Lots of deer, sometimes some elk on this road, okay? So let me just make sure everything's good here. Yeah, we're still rolling. So anywho, he gets out of here. I'm doing a podcast real quick. I'm right here. All right, so old Jimerson gets out of the car, right? It's taking him quite a bit to get home, right? It's getting home late. He gets out. As a matter of fact, he had got off work, whatever, but then he was getting groceries. He had went grocery shopping in town, coming back. He's going to get the groceries down. Anywho, behind his house, that little ditch that I talked about that goes down, it's not a little ditch, it's where the creek is, that goes way down there. He's over there getting stuff out of the truck, and he said he got this weird feeling or whatever, you know, and so he looks over towards, so if you got where he parks his car, the garage, and then right back over here is the ditch behind the house, right, or the creek that goes down. But it's not a little creek, I mean, it's big, okay? And he said that he looks over and he can see these glowing red eyes, right? And when he walks over to show me where he thinks the eye, I mean, whatever this thing was, it's not an easy pathway walking through this shit. I mean, he went over there, he showed me everything. You can't just get down, I mean, there's thorn bushes, there's trees, there's shrubs and bushes and everything. I mean, it's not an easy walk through there, okay? So whatever this thing is, it's chilling out over there. It's got the glowing red eyes back there. And so old Jim locks eyes with it and said that this thing is pissed, right? It starts growling at him. Now, he told me that's what sent the chill up his spine. He said to me, you know, I've heard bear, right? He's hunted bear. He's been out in the wilderness, hunted big game, all that. He goes, I ain't never heard a growl like this in my life. And I know the feeling. I shared my story with him, what happened in the Bistai, and I said, hey, bud, I think I've heard maybe something similar. Maybe not the exact same growl, but I've heard something that sent a chill up my spine 20 plus years ago, okay, in the Bistai Badlands. So he tells me this, and he goes on to tell me that whatever this thing was, I mean, from where it was standing, where the ditch goes, I mean, this thing had to be at eye level with him, was at least 8 feet up, right? Glowing red eyes, it's growling. He says he goes inside to get the gun, right? Goes inside, gets his gun, because he don't know what the hell this thing is. He's freaked out, right? He comes back out, and he says that it was almost like whatever this thing was knew that he had the gun. It backed off. You know, he knew it would backing off and going back down in the ravine. But as it was walking away, he wasn't okay with just thinking, hey, this thing's, it's right next to my house, whatever. So he's got the gun, he's got the flashlight, and he starts to go find a pathway and find where this sucker went. And he says as he went down there he goes down, and he took me down the path, right? This is where I wish I could have had the camera out, but like I said, I was there as a friend. I wasn't on podcast duty, you know, so I didn't feel it was very respectful to just ask to break the camera out. But he took me down and showed me where he walked to go see. He said he couldn't find any footprints. He couldn't hear anything once everything was done, you know. But the big moral of this one is, like I said, old Jim, he's hunted bear. He's heard bears growling in the wild, you know, big game. And like he said, if it was a bear, you know, he would have heard it go crashing through, you know, he would have spooked it, a black bear, you know, a decent sized black bear, it would have went crashing through. So there's that one. And there's one other story that I'm going to share that old Jimerson shared with me, where one night where he was over there, where he took me, where the bridge was, that the road goes over, there's a bridge and it goes over the creek that I'm talking about, right? And he said that he could hear, and then there was a good amount of water coming through there, like in the winter and springtime, you know. There wasn't a lot this summer. It's been a little dry in our neck of the woods, you know, here where I'm at in New Mexico, and then about 45 minutes going northwest where he's at, I believe, if that's where he's at. But when there was a good amount of water in there over the last couple of years, he had another strange thing where he could hear what it sounded like footsteps down in the water, something splashing around in the water. And when he went over there to check out what was going on, he's like, as he would get closer, and I went right into this area, we went and checked all this stuff out in the daytime and the nighttime. The nighttime's where we really had that strange thing, and I'll tell you all about it here shortly. But he said as he would get closer, it was like whatever was playing in the water would stop, right? Whatever was splashing around and having fun in the water. And then as he would, you know, say, okay, well, start walking back off, it starts splashing around and playing in the water again, almost like as if, like he told me, like if it was an animal or a bear or whatever, as he's getting closer, it's going to get spooked and it's going to haul ass. But no, this thing was not afraid. And I told him, with knowing what I know, you know, I was almost like, hey man, it sounded like maybe a juvenile could have been playing in the water. Maybe it had an adult with it or whatever to protect it. But as it's splashing around and doing whatever, but as old Jim was getting closer, it would stop. And what you doing out here? No, I don't have the remote. You come out here just to check on me or what? I got the wife here spying on me. I'm telling old Jimerson stories from our trip, but I'm using him as an alias, Jimmy Gaylord. I won't give out his real name. I figure he'll get a kick out of that when he watches it. You know what I'm talking about, old Jim. I got you on this one, buddy. You didn't get me this time. I got you. So long story short, we had the big scare where he was getting the groceries out, and he had the glowing red eyes. You had the growling. Whatever it was, you know, was down in the creek and was still at eye level with him. So this sucker had to be at least, I mean, where he showed me the incline where it was there. I mean, I mean, who's going to walk through there, especially at 11:30 at midnight, whatever it was, you know? Oh, and that's what he told me. Jim, how could I forget? He told me, to make sure I didn't screw anything up there, right? Yeah, we're still rolling. He told me that it sounded like a man walking through there. It sounded like a man, 2 foot. He goes, a big man. That was his description of it. It's coming back to me now. That going through the ravine and the creek down there in the big ditch or whatever it is back there, the creek. He said it sounded like a big man, one step at a time. So that's where he said, you know, I've been out there, I've hunted all the big game, you know, whatever it was wasn't afraid of him. He told me that too. It wasn't afraid of him, but once he got the gun, he knew. It was like that thing knew to back off, right? So once again, we're dealing with, what is this podcast all about? It's all about Sasquatch encounters. It's all about Bigfoot, right? The Sabe, we've been known through the Native American elders and stuff across North America. They've let us know that they refer to themselves as the Sabe, right? The forest people is what it means in their ancient language. And I'll tell you what, man, these stories I get them all the time. I got a couple more for you. Please, let me forget to tell you about the story about the man sitting on his property here out on the Navajo reservation and getting the smell, right? How many times have we talked about that smell on this podcast? And there's a lot more of you watching the podcast. I think the last video has almost 1,000 views. So I'm real excited and happy that the 100 and almost 50 of you that are following me now, I started at 0 and now we're almost to 150 followers. That might seem like peanuts to some people, but guess what? I'm not doing this for fortune and fame. I'm passionate and I love this subject. So I'm excited that almost 150 of you are with me and have hit the subscribe button and are here to hear me tell you these stories, okay? So I got to keep talking about the ranch real quick, but I will, before this is over, also share about the smell that hit this Navajo gentleman. You know, the Navajo reservation is where I'm at, right? In my neck of the woods here in New Mexico, the largest Native American reservation in the country. And so many high strangeness stories and cryptid stories, UFO, all that cool stuff, right? So let's get back to Jim real quick, and then I'll tell you about this gentleman's story about finding the long hair, and him also telling me that he'll bring me out once I earn his trust, but no cameras, no pictures, no nothing. And if I don't puke from the smell when we get around them, or if I do puke from the smell, he says I owe him a beer for the next year, a beer a day when he comes into the spot that I work, you know, to the restaurant. But so yeah, get back to old Jimerson and talking about hearing what I told him, you know, because I gave him my assessment of what I thought it could be if it was something in that nature, right, of what we're talking about, you know, in the Sasquatch realm. It could have been a juvenile playing around in the water, and as they get closer, as Jim would get closer to figure out what that was, it all stopped, right? Maybe the juvenile was smart enough to know to stop, but I would think that there was an adult, especially, I told Jim this, I told him that if, with that mountain range being so close, they could use that. I mean, they're not going to, you know, they don't want to just walk out in the open, right? Because there's big open pastures out there in the area of the ranch that he lives in with the 35 acres, tons and tons of just wild open scenery there. And I said, they're not going to use just that open area to walk and stuff, right? That little ditch or whatever that goes about 10, 12, 15 feet high, whatever, with all that cover, it's a perfect place for them to travel in. There's water, there's food, right? So those are the two stories he told me, right? And then we went out and we did some stuff ourselves. I was there for 2 nights and 3 days and 2 nights, I think, whatever it was. We were there the third day, we took off. Yeah, so we stayed 2 nights. We were there that third day. We stayed as late as we could, and then we split. The wife had to get back to work that evening. But when we went out and he showed me all that stuff, we were over, he walked me through everything, showed me all the stories, right? Those nights in particular, we saw some lights in the sky. And this is on my kids, on my 3 children and my unborn child that is in my wife's womb now. I will tell you, this is the God's honest truth. Here in New Mexico, we've got beautiful open skies, especially going to Colorado. We always head north to get out of town for the day or whatever. So if we're going to a little town called Durango, or we're going to Telluride, Ouray, Silverton, any of that, when you're out there and you get the night skies come over you, I mean, we're here in New Mexico especially too, I mean, you're just talking the most beautiful 1,000 star bright skies. I mean, thousands of them just lit up. They light up the night sky. And here, for the past, I don't know how many years, Megan and I, my wife, 100% have seen these balls of light that go through the sky. And I'm not talking about like spook lights and everything that you might see like over there on the East Coast and stuff. I see a lot of that stuff on Small Town Monsters. They do big specials on it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about lights in the sky, these balls of light, right? Jim and I, Megan, the kids, we were watching these things. I mean, they would appear out of nowhere, right, ball light, just boom, just out of nowhere, right? And then it'll float there for a while, and then it's almost like, the best way I can describe it is like they like fold in on themselves, right? And they disappear. I mean, it was like UFO highway this night, you know, when we were out on the ranch. I mean, there were just so many of them. We hopped in a little side by side. We drove up the road to get a better view of where the mountain range was over there, for the Rocky Mountains, and it was like they were all coming out of this space in the sky. So I thought those of you who tune into this might find that interesting. That was pretty incredible. I see it here in New Mexico too, even from home base right here on the property. I see it from my house. I've seen it one other time like that with Megan, where I had to call her at work and be like, yo, go outside and look at this part of the sky. And she saw what I was talking about. I think my daughter and I counted 50 something lights that night, and I'm not even kidding. Like, trust me too, we know what an airplane is, right? We know what an airplane is. I'm not even telling you these are aliens that we're seeing. It could be some hybrid technology that we're working on that we know nothing of, you know, here as just the normal, you know, civilians, right? It could be some top secret, you know, government black budget stuff. I don't know what it is, but we know what a plane is, right? When you got a plane coming, right, and it's got blinking red lights, you know, red and green, whatever it is, right? That's a plane. You're going to see it from point A to point B, from horizon to horizon. As it goes, you can't see it anymore. These lights we were seeing on the ranch that night, like I said, would just show up, float, and then disappear. Night 2, when we went looking out again, Jim and I, we go out and we're looking again, and this time we catch some of the same lights or whatever, but ones that the night 1, it was all, you know, in the to the north of us, I guess, right, to the northern part of the sky, headed towards the mountain range. They were floating over there and disappearing. Night 2, they were doing the same thing in the same general area, but there was a couple that went over us that were like, when we caught them, it was like they were like, it was a circle, a complete circle, but bright, super bright, blinking on and off, blink, and then all of a sudden disappear real fast. Something just came to me. Thank goodness I just remembered this. The night 1 where we were watching all this, and Megan and I had seen some of this kind of stuff before, but Jim and them hadn't, so they were completely thrilled with it, watching this, seeing what it was. As we were watching this part of the sky where all the lights were coming, Jim, you're going to remember this if you watched the podcast, buddy. Something I had never seen before. I don't know if I'll ever see it again. This area where the lights were coming out, and we kept saying to ourselves, what is going on? Like, is this some kind of portal? Is this like whatever? We don't know what it is, right? Because you're seeing planes, right? But you're also seeing these lights. So you can, there's the contrast of the two, and you can totally tell the difference of them. But the big thing that happened, while we were watching, paying attention, wanting to see the lights, because they're coming on, they're disappearing, appearing, whatever, this flash happened. Remember that, Jim? If you're watching, buddy, you remember the flash? This bright blue flash came out of that area, that patch of sky where the lights were going. And it was like this, we were watching the lights go this way, that way, back, just zigzagging, whatever they were doing. We were watching a light drip down, if you remember, Jim. Do you remember? The light was coming down, ball of light coming down, right? And so we're watching that, but right over here, phew, this blue flash, best way I can describe it. But it was bright. I mean, it lit up that whole part of the sky. That was pretty awesome. I'm really glad that I'm talking about this because it's kind of making all this stuff come back to me. Now, I think on this same night that we saw all this stuff, this is night 2. Saw the blue flash on night 1. Night 2 is where I got a little more brave and felt a little more comfortable than I did on night 1. Night 1, Jim was showing me everything, where everything happened. And yes, he had the gun on his hip and was telling me everything would be fine, no matter if a black bear showed up or whatever. But it was night 2, I got a little more comfortable and was able to go deeper into the places that he was showing me. But on night 1, while we were over there by the bridge, he just got done telling me all the stories, and we're over there, we got the lights, and we're looking. As we're standing on the bridge, this is where Jim thought that little tiny rock pebbles were being thrown at us. Okay? Now, we're standing there, and I'm telling you, if we're hanging over the bridge right here, right, you can do it here, or you can do it back behind us over here, We're standing, and we're just checking everything out, and we're hearing twigs break a little bit, like, right? And it's like, Jim's like, do you hear that? And we're flashing the lights over there. We're looking, hear another twig, right? And it's like, something's in there. Is what he says to me, and I go, you're right. We start hearing funny noises, right? Like what we thought sounded like an elk, like a like this weird noise, right? So that's when we go do a little investigating. We drop down off the bridge and go down, into where the ravine is or whatever down there, to the creek. But you can still hear that, right? And I mean, it clear as day, you can hear it. But like Jim said, if that was an elk down there and we're coming, being humans, loud as hell, crunching down on the, stepping on sticks and doing whatever, you'd hear that elk go crashing through the creek to get the hell away from us. We'd spook it, obviously, right? Well, that didn't happen. So we kept hearing that noise, kept hearing the twigs break. But while we were on the bridge, that is where we weren't getting hit with rocks, but the rocks were hitting the trees that were like, so if this is the bridge and we're looking over, we got the flashlight, Jim's got his on his helmet, and I've got the flashlight in my hand, we're looking. I mean, these trees are 15 feet high. I mean, they're up, hanging over here by the bridge. So they're like right in front of us. That's where it seemed like the rocks, the little tiny pebbles were coming through the trees. And that's where Jim says, are those rocks being thrown at us? And then like, we're standing on the bridge, right? And there's gravel under us and everything, right? And so he stomps on the bridge to see if it's us walking on the bridge. But literally to make the rocks fall through the cracks and go through the trees, I mean, he had to stomp literally as hard as he could to make sure that would happen, right? And that's not what happened when the pebbles were coming through the trees. They were pebbles that were, so that was strange, right? That was different. That was night 1, okay? Night 2, when I got a little braver and we went around and we went a little further out onto the property. His son was with us, right? I think his son about 15 or 16. His son was with us. The 3 of us are walking, and that's where we seen the glowing eyes. I kid you not. The glowing eyes at ground level, like, I said, what's that, right? These glowing yellow eyes, right? And they're down at eye level, or pardon me, down at where your feet are, right? And so we keep walking up, and whatever it is, we spooked. and that thing stood up, and whatever it was that stood up hit the top of these trees that were there. So these trees started shaking. You heard whatever it was take off through the sticks and the bushes and everything. And the craziest thing was, it was like when we got over to those trees, that's when Jim said, these trees got to be 10 feet high, right? And whatever it was that was down like this on the ground, and it stood up, and it made those trees at the very top of it. So that tripped us out. That was super trippy, especially when we went a little further and noticed that right where we saw where the eyes were down below, that's where we got to where that was, knelt down or whatever. And there was like this little wooden bench that had probably been there for the better part of, who knows, 50 years or something, this old wooden bench. So that was strange, because it was like, I had just got all these stories from Jim, the 2 stories about the splashing, and this is where we are. We are in the area of where the splashing was. We are, a couple hundred yards from the house and from the creek right behind the garage and everything, where it's the same creek. We're just right there where all this stuff had happened. And that's why I thought it would be really cool to share this with the podcast, because I was literally on scene. I was being walked through, told all this of what had happened, what had made him feel very different, right? He's lived out there for how many years and has only had these 2 strange things that happen. And if that's how this stuff always goes, right? This shit doesn't happen every day, but when it does happen, it sticks out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean? It is something that is odd, and it is unnatural compared to everyday things that happen on people's property, or when a hunter goes out to hunt game, or a hiker is out for a hike, and these strange things happen that don't happen every day, right? That's the stuff that sticks out and is very unusual. That's the stuff that I love. Those are the stories I want to hear. Now I'm going to jump from that, and I'm going to go to the gentleman that comes and sits at my work, who tells me that if I earn his trust, he'll take me out on the property on the Navajo reservation. Said the mountain is like at the base of his property, and it goes up into the mountain, and he's got the house there, and he says they're around. He knows they're around. They all know they're around, is what he tells me. We all know, referring to the Native American culture, right? I'm telling you right now, I get some of my best stories from these great people. I love these people, right? I just love them. And I'm great friends with all these people. I've earned a lot of their trust. So I've earned this gentleman's trust enough for him to tell me that, he said one day he was just sitting in the front room watching TV or doing whatever, and caught the whiff of this smell, this awful rank smell. We've talked about it 100 times here already. This will be episode 15, so I've mentioned it, I think, on every single podcast, and when he looked out his window or whatever, I think he said he noticed something by the tree, or however far it was from the window there, and when he went out to check it out, the thing had already taken off, but there was a big long piece of hair that was hanging off the tree. And he said that to this day he has it at the house, and when you open up the bag, he said that smell just will permeate the entire room. It's just rank, awful smell. So yeah, this guy did tell me that if I earn his trust, he'll take me out on the property. No phones, no cameras, no video, no nothing. And he said that he 100% can prove to me and show me that they are real. And that if I don't puke from the smell, he believes that I will puke from the putrid smell that they put off, because I'm not used to it, and I haven't, but he said it's that bad. And if I do puke, I owe him a beer, for 1 beer a day for a whole year. But if I don't puke, I don't owe him a beer. That was his stipulation. We kind of laughed about it, and I shook his hand and said, hey, that sounds cool to me, But there's a thing there too where, it seems like very, very real to the Native American culture, very, very sacred to them, right? They don't just sell these things out and say, hey, come on in and capture one and study it for scientific purposes. I don't believe that has happened or is happening, So it's almost like I've been invited out on a couple different things where, hey, come on out, I'll show you, I'll take you out. There's a guy that I call Uncle Rick who comes into work, and he tells me 100% for sure, another Native American gentleman, that he can take me out into a certain mountain range out on the Navajo reservation, and that 100% we're going to see him, or we're going to see signs of that they have been there, right? Signs of footprints or tree breaks, or he even said like structures and stuff that they make and where they live out there. I mean, just crazy stuff, man. These people tell me this shit with a straight face, you know. It's not like they're just making stuff up for shits and giggles. I mean, they'll tell me their stories, they'll tell me what's happened to them. I got another story too that I'll share, and then I'll jump off and get back to the wife and kids. But another story from a good friend of mine that I work with. You know, she overhears me talking about all this stuff with bar guests or my guests and all this stuff. She's a great friend of mine at work, and she told me when they were young and staying out at Grandma and Grandpa's place out on the Navajo reservation that I think she set out to the on the Bistai Highway, out where I had my encounter or whatever. That's why she shared it with me, was that when they were kids out there at Grandma and Grandpa's place, you know, staying for the weekend or whatever it was, staying the night for sure, that they could feel like they were being watched and whatnot. And when they'd look up to a window that was, she told me, at least 8-9 feet up, they could see, you know, glowing eyes, you know, looking through the window at them, and they'd all freak out and get scared and take off running into Grandma and Grandpa's room. And so these are just, you know, some of the things that I've been exposed to and that I thought you guys would think is really cool. So this is going to make up episode 15 of the Tree Peakers podcast. I'm glad y'all were hanging with me. I'm going to reach out to old Jimerson and let him know that I'm sharing this and get the okay from him to put it online. And hopefully we'll have episode 15 up and running on YouTube, and I'll share it with all of you, and I'll be back for episode 16 here coming up soon. You guys have a good one. Thanks for hanging. And here's another thing I wanted to say, as a matter of fact, and I'll put this up at the beginning of the video. I will say this: if any of you out there have a story and you want to share it with me, then email me at treepeakerspodcast@gmail.com. Send me your story, write it out, and I will read it on here. And I will be your conduit for helping you get something off your chest that maybe you've been sitting on, or maybe that you can't share with other people because they're going to make fun of you, or because it's got too much of the woo-woo factor, and you know, it's a little bit outside of your comfort zone to just talk about at dinner like I will with anybody. It don't matter to me these days. People try to make fun of me, it don't matter to me. I'm past all that. I've been shared too many amazing, brilliant, scary, terrifying, and absolutely terrific stories from so many people to where I'm not worried about my feet being thrown in the fire over all this. I'm all in, and I've got your back. So you want to share a story with me? treepeakerspodcast@gmail.com. I'm your man. I'll share it, and you can remain anonymous. You can leave your name. You can leave out certain areas of exact of where it was. Maybe tell me a little something. Ain't got to tell me at all, but I'll tell you this: I'm here for you. And if you want to send me something, go right ahead. Feel free. I'll be your conduit. And other than that, I'll share some more stories with all of you soon. We're almost to 150. Let's keep it going. The next goal is going to be, we're going to hit 150, then we're going to go to 250, and then from there we're headed to 500. If we can hit 1,000 subscribers a year or two from now or something like that, and we can put our name and throw our name in the hat in this Sasquatch community, we can keep everybody, you know. I'm not doing this for clicks in the sense of popularity contest. I'm doing this to share the realness of this subject, and that these creatures are ancient. They've been here longer than us. They obviously have an amazing amount of wisdom to be able to live out in nature and to be of nature. And I was told this too by an old Native American gentleman one time. I was told that there came a time where there was an offer made. There was an offer made to human beings and to the Sabe, right? And it was fire. Fire was the gift, right? Something was offering us fire. Call it Mother Nature. Who knows what it was? But this gift was being given to us, and it was human beings took that offering and we ran with it, which has led us to where we are today. Fire was the beginning of our technology, right? And the Sasquatch turned their back and walked the other way and always looked down on us for having chose not necessarily the easier path, but for not just living off the land and being of nature and living in balance and harmony with nature. It was like making that decision and accepting that offer, choosing that path led us astray from nature, is kind of how I was told that. So that's how I'll leave it today. Like I said, if we want to start sharing stories with me, there's 150 of you almost out there now. So I'm imagining some of you out there may have something. Maybe you've shared it before, maybe you haven't. treepeakerspodcast@gmail.com. I'm ready to share your story, and I'm ready to share much more of what I have with all of you. So thanks for hanging, and I'll see you on the next one. Episode 15, that's a wrap.